the funny part of like Jeepin is that's a legal term I can use. I can't use Jeeping or Jeep.
Yeah.
Like those are owned by Jeep, but Jeepin is they can't own it. So that's how I go with it. Sticking it to the man.
Sticking it to the man. Fuck you, Stellantis. Yep. All right, welcome back to the S3 Magazine podcast today. As always, we have Jonathan Woolley. I'm Mike Sanders, and we have a special guest on today, our buddy Jeepin Bubba. There he is, the man, the myth himself. Jeepin Bubba is, of course, his stripper name. His real name's Brad. Definitely not nearly as cool. There we go. Throw your dollars. He's the guy from Black Bear Off-Road. He knows a ton about any type of off-roading, overlanding, winching, rock crawling, anything awesome you're going to do in the woods, basically with some buddies. He's your guy. Bubba, take it away. Introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Brad, Jeepin Bubba co-run. I own Black Bear Off-Road here in Buford, Georgia. We got a shop where we build mostly Jeeps, but we do trucks and all kind of other stuff, off-road things, overland stuff, whatever. If you can bolt it, weld it, cut it, we do it. And we run a website. We sell parts and stuff like that too. So been doing automotive professionally for like 12 years now. Been off-road like 10 or so. So yeah, been after it for a little while. But I hit up Woolley. I said, dude, I've been watching you and Mike. Like you're like old man complaining that's going on, a little bourbon or scotch going. I said, I've got some stuff I gotta say. There's something I really want to talk about. So I asked for the for you guys to pull me on here, which I appreciate you guys having me on for sure.
Hell yeah.
So I got a question to start you off, and then I'm just kind of teeing up what I really want to talk about here. So I want to know what you guys think. When you think of like automotive media, entertainment, or news related to like the automotive industry, whether it's aftermarket, cars in general, what do you think of like as where would you go to get your either news, entertainment, media? Maybe in the past, like where'd you consume it the last like 3 to 5 years, and where do you see it right now? Where do you consume it right now?
Shoot, well, hell, I'll start. Except screw the last 3 to 5 years. Like 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I was a teenager, dreaming about the Integra or the Eclipse I was about to get, or whatever. Like it was definitely print magazine. There was nothing else. Might have been some mischief videos a little bit later, around 2000 or so, but like for the informative stuff, print magazine, 100%. It was Super Street, it was Turbo, it was Sport Compact Car. Those were the guys. Naz, John Nadiri, he was like the editor. That in a way is kind of my career role model, I guess. I thought he was funny as hell when he wrote. He talked to people, and I thought that was really cool. And back then, all the editors, they were like opinionated, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like they said what they thought, at least to a certain extent. You might not always agree with it, but you felt it. You knew that they were talking from a place of passion. Then what? Then I guess forums came in. And that's the thing. I'm a bad person to ask because the last 3 to 5 years, I don't pay attention to media. It's all shit. Like I don't want it in my head because subconsciously it'll affect my own thoughts. You know what I mean? And so I kind of don't want it. And I kind of don't like it. I mean, the answer is YouTube. That's the answer. That's where everybody's at. But I don't watch that shit, personally.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. Same way, I'm not quite as much of an old man as Woolley is. But yeah, I basically started off getting all of my automotive media when I was in middle school and high school from print magazine companies. And then there was some TV shows and stuff sprinkled in there. They did some stuff for, cars that I actually cared about every once in a while, but it wasn't very often. That was mostly muscle car stuff that you would find online and pretty much nothing else. That was what they were going for. But what media has morphed into is this strange, misinformed and just totally scratching the surface because pictures look cooler than what's actually happening. It's become this really, really weird thing. I feel like we used to know who the automotive journalists were, and they were the book. They were the knowledge. You knew that if John Nadiri said something, he was right, and he meant what he said, and he was dropping knowledge on you, so you needed to pay attention. Now you just kind of thumb through Reels or TikTok, and a story happens to pop up, and you see it, and you're like, well, that guy said some stuff. Maybe it was right. Maybe it wasn't. I have no idea. I really don't want to fact check him. Let me just scroll to the next one. And then same thing with Instagram. It's all just very much surface layer stuff. And because of that, media is kind of dead, to be honest. It's just a lot of people shouting. Yes, Jonathan.
Sorry, I wanted media has become, I know we're over answering your question now, but you got us fired up already. We've been drinking a little whiskey. Media has become selfish. It used to be for the culture. Now it is for the person making it. It's about the views and the subscriptions. It's not about, they're not inspiring. They're influencing. It's literally in the fucking name. They're influencing. Like the way it used to be in the print era, in my era, was they inspired you to get involved, to buy. There wasn't comments. You didn't get like all this peer pressure from outside commenters who frankly aren't qualified to be talking, but they have a microphone. And so it was a whole different thing. And that it was the stuff on YouTube, it's not relatable. That's another big problem. It's all larger than life because it's designed for views, it's designed for shock value, and it's designed for the person making it. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. You design it for the person receiving it, and you make it relatable, and you inspire them instead of influencing them, and you try and get them to get that fire. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, oh man, I want to get involved. I want to do something. This is awesome. And that side of it's dead. That's why I don't watch it, because I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I still love cars. I still love to play with cars and live my lifestyle around cars, but I don't pay attention to the media like I used to.
You know what else I really, really hate about media nowadays? The advertising doesn't flow as well as it used to. You take a print magazine, for example, and you have just badass content all throughout it. And then you happen to have an ad sprinkled in there, and people just kind of see it sprinkled in there. It's not too much in your face, but it's sprinkled in there, and you kind of learn who the brands are, what they do, just by thumbing through the magazine. It's not like nowadays where it's like, today we're going to be talking about Teslas, and it's sponsored by our friends over at Turbo Smart, and it's just like always the most sold out crap ever, and it makes me want to just turn it off immediately. Yes, Jonathan.
That's because print gave you a captive audience. When you picked up a print magazine, hang on, you basically were deciding, all right, I'm not going to pay attention to the outside world for a minute. I'm going to be in here. So the ads became part of the deal. It was part of the art. It was like, you just kind of gazed at it. In the digital world, media finds you. You oftentimes don't find it. It comes, or even if you're looking for it, like the ads are an annoyance. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to find some information and then the ads pop up and you're like, get the fuck out. It actually has the opposite effect. It's annoying. You are annoying me with your ad. And so the whole thing is different. But I would be willing to bet that most people get their media just off of social media, just stuff that comes across their news feed that they didn't intend to see. They didn't go after it. It's different with print. Back in the day, you picked it up and that it was some idle time and you blocked out the world. Today, it's chaos. It's chaos. It's chaos. And everybody's just trying to overshout each other.
And the really sad part is there truly is room for both, in my opinion. The market can bear both, but our previous advertisers and every other magazine out there's previous advertisers saw free, and you just can't compete with that. They wanted to cut costs, and that's what Facebook and Instagram and everything else offered. Come in here and we'll give you the big gaudy numbers, even though they're not real. Lots of bots, lots of fake accounts, but you get big gaudy numbers that you get to show to your boss and feel good about. That's cool. And you get to partner with people. And yeah, it's great. So they all cut all their print budgets. And now that's why you've seen the complete exodus of traditional, not even just print, just traditional media in general. I mean, traditional media in general is gone. It is very sparse.
So did we answer your question?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you mine. Quick answer, like along with you guys. So like my dad and I can't tell if there's very few people in my family who are car folks. Like my dad definitely wasn't a car guy. I get my first truck at 16 and I'm hooked. Like I'm like, this is it. I want to be a car guy. So what do? You go pick up Carcraft magazine, Hot Rod magazine, like $19 and you get a free gift. Like, it's a year subscription. So I'm like reading every inch, trying to learn. And I think the way I approach automotive media is I'm always trying to learn something. So in the last couple of years, I've been watching the Motor Trend channel. I've been reading S3 magazine. I look at stuff that I'm interested in. As far as YouTube goes, there's only 2 or 3 people that actually fulfill that niche for me. Like it's, when I was younger, it was like 2 Guy Garage and like Truck U and stuff like that. It was kind of cheesy. They cut away, they come back, They've done it, but that was still exciting. That doesn't where does that exist nowadays? So for me, I've kind of been searching like where is a good place to get that information. Even as someone who's in it every day, I like watching the hot rod stuff or looking at overland stuff, something that I'm not seeing all the time. But I might, eventually maybe I'd like to go buy an old C10 or like do something like that. So for me, I haven't seen that kind of old school media in quite a while. The places I've seen it the best, I think, have been on the Motor Trend app, like Roadkill and some of the shows like that, which kind of like segues me into kind of what we're talking about today. So very recently, Four Wheeler Magazine, which basically there are a few off-road magazines that are left, but basically was like the last big one. It's the largest 4x4 magazine, and it's been in business 61 years, but that will end this month here in February. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of rundown, and some of this stuff will probably hit for you guys. So 10 Network, which stood for the Enthusiast Network, they were bought in 2019 by Discovery Channel. So Discovery at the time was thinking we want to really build our own platform on demand, and they had the Velocity channel, they had Gas Monkey, they got all this going on. So they bought these titles and immediately killed almost all of the publications. So they had 22 publications and they killed 19 of them. So I'm going to tell you a couple of the ones that they had. So they had Carcraft, Diesel Power Magazine, Hot Rod Deluxe, JP Magazine, Lowrider, Mopar Muscle, Super Chevy, Street Rodder, Super Street, Truck Trend, Truckin', Peterson's 4-wheel drive. There's Mustangs, Vets. There's tons on there. But the only ones they kept were Hot Rod, 4-wheeler, and Motor Trend. That's the 3 that they've been printing. And now they're down to 2, Hot Rod and Motor Trend. So I found that kind of interesting. I did a little background research. Apparently, Discovery Channel and Warner Brothers are in the middle of a merger, and they have committed $20 billion a year to kind of surpass Netflix in on-demand viewing. So I don't know if this has anything to do with them killing the publications or they're trying to turn everything digital. Now, almost all those publications put out digital news and digital posts. You can go to motortrend.com / whatever the, say, Carcraft, and there's still a couple articles that pop up, but they're mostly clickbait things with very short articles, a lot of pictures. It's not really that great. I went through a bunch of them trying to see if anything was good on there. So I'm assuming that's what they're going to do with 4-wheeler, is just post a few clickbait things here and there and try to send you back to Motor Trend or whatever. But what I thought was also interesting, not just killing the magazine, on their app, Motor Trend, which is a paid app, I want to say it's like $60 a year. I do subscribe to it. They've recently killed all off-road shows. So I really like a show called Dirt Every Day. Every time there's a new one, I'm watching it. It's a guy that actually was an editor for JP Magazine, which was the Jeep magazine that they produced. And the premise was they'd buy an off-road vehicle, fix it up in 3 or 4 days, and take it on the trail. And it'd be cheap. They'd show kids like, hey, you can go buy this junker and go off-road and have fun with your buddies. So I'm kind of wondering, is there a conspiracy? Is Motor Trend trying to like potentially kill off-road because they're becoming woke because they're a part of like Warner Brothers, whatever? Or is it just me? Is it just like me in general? They're taking away off-road because it's not popular. I have a hard time believing that off-road is not doing it for them on a financial standpoint, because off-road's taken over SEMA the last 3 or 4 years. That's all you see is four-wheel drive, Jeep this, Raptor that, Bronco. I'm in the business. It's the best it's ever been for selling parts and Jeep and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, is it new media that's kind of making this change, or is it maybe something up top and corporate? I'm gonna let you guys give your thoughts on that. I do have a little bit more information about Motor Trend and a few things they've posted actually just now for 2023. But after you give your kind of thoughts on four-wheeler magazine or magazines going down in general, or maybe off-road media, why they would be getting away from that maybe as a company, anything you can think of on that. And then I want to give you guys a couple little headlines out of Motor Trend in literally like the last month or so that I found interesting.
Okay. So, Will, you care if I start?
Go for it.
All right. So yeah, a lot of parts to answering those questions, but let's just start.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of stuff, but
yeah, let's start with the basics of it. So first of all, you went back to when they were 10, the enthusiast networks. It goes even further back than that. When me and Wooly first started with S3, which was like, 17 years ago, they were known as Prime Media. And then they got bought out by Source Interlink. Then I think it was 10, then Discovery. Every single time that happens, every time a new conglomerate comes in and buys them and takes the assets, heads roll, because the new group thinks, well, we can do it better. We can do it cheaper. We just spent a bunch of money on this. We need to go make some profit back off of this. So the first thing that they always do is they trim dead weight. And that's been going on with that whole group of media for a long, long time now. They killed print. First of all, RIP Four-Wheeler Magazine. That sucks. I truly know and feel your pain, because we've gone through the exact same thing here recently. We had to quit printing S3 because of all the extenuating circumstances. The fact is, and a lot of you guys may not know this, but I am the ad sales guy for S3 Magazine. So I'm the one that puts the deals together, talks to the advertisers, gets them in the book, at least got them in the book. The fact is, more and more every single year, as digital got more and more popular, it was just too easy for advertisers to go, man, print's dead. It became almost just a saying that wasn't even truly founded in any fact, but it was just saying, print's dead. We just don't have budget for print. All of our budget's going to, the social media platforms. The fact is, printing is great. You have an actual tangible product in your hands, but it's expensive as hell to actually print it. It's expensive to ship it. It's slow, and it's just, we're in the day and age now where news has got to be fast. I mean, you can literally take your phone, like look at these little Google machines that we're on right now, man. You literally take your phone, blah, 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 and then you post it up, and it's immediate news. As soon as it happens, go ahead.
I had a Wooly interjection. I was actually looking back at some of those old, like, Hot Rod Carcraft magazines. Mm-hmm. Guys would ask technical mechanical questions, send them into the editor, and they would answer them in the magazine. How long did that take for them to get their answer via mail in the back? And they're hoping, I hope you answered my question
Dude.
about my F100 this month and then in the back of this magazine. So yeah, it was slow for sure.
Funny thing about that, they used to plan those magazines so far in advance. Like I remember going through this with some of our old photographers that used to shoot for us. They'd be like, yeah, man, I just shot something and it's going in the new issue of Super Street. And we're like, which issue? And it's like one literally 6 months down the road from now, just because everything is so booked out for so long. So yeah, it probably took those guys a quarter to a half of a year to actually get answers to their questions. Can you imagine waiting that long when now you can just be like, oh, we got it.
Yeah, it all sounds ridiculous now. I mean, that's the thing. Back in the day, you just had to figure it out. Now you go to YouTube and look for answers. But see, like before Prime Media and all that, all these magazines were independent. That was the glory years. That was kind of, in a way, the way that S3 was. Like they would say what was on their mind. They were edgy and they really represented their culture as well. Then, Prime Media comes in and starts buying stuff up. And it loses some of it. You get the suits that come in and say, oh, you can't say that, man, or whatever. Or, we had a buddy that started at S3 the same time I did, and then we ended up buying it. He ended up going on, long story, another magazine, ended up at Import Tuner. And you would think that that would be like a dream job, right? Import Tuner in like the mid 2000s, that was like it. And he was miserable. He was like, I don't get to do any of the artist things that I want to do. They literally take the photo shoot, filter out all the photos that don't incorporate advertisers or something, give me 8 photos and say, there, put it in your template. You know what I mean? And it was just, it lost something. So in a way, print kind of killed itself too, because it all just became so corporate. And then it sells to Source Interlink and it gets worse, and then it sells to 10 and it gets worse. And we've seen it, dude. We're seeing it happen. Wheel Pros, they're buying everybody up. And whenever they buy somebody, that company goes to shit. Rugged Ridge, our boys, they got bought by who? Who is it that bought Rugged Ridge?
Truck Hero.
Truck Hero.
That's right.
Truck Hero bought them, and all the cool people left within a year. It runs off the passionate people, and it turns it into another corporate thing, man. And we see that everywhere. And it sucks.
Absolutely. So speaking of corporations, I was like, let me take a look at Motor Trend because that's like their top dog now. They're still printing it. The only other magazine's Hot Rod. I did check out Motor Trend's app recently, and they're renewing all of Hot Rodded related shows. They're going to keep filming those. But I'm like, what media are they putting out? And they've already started their list for 2023. So this is like Car of the Year 2023, Truck of the Year 2023. They do a top 50 who's who in the automotive world. So I'm going to run those things by you real quick and get your reaction. So the Motor Trend Truck of the Year was the F-150 Lightning.
Yeah.
So just a statistic to back it up that I found interesting, not trying to sway you guys in any way, but 650,000 F-150s were sold last year. 15,000 of those were Lightnings.
Yeah.
So it is the Truck of the Year, but they sold 15,000. The car, I actually can't even find that much information about it. It's the Genesis G90.
Yeah.
It's $100,000 sports luxury car. So I guess we'll all go out and buy one of those. Then looking at their top 50 who's who. Now, I get this one. It's not necessarily like who's popular, who's done anything great, but it's like who's kind of the important people in the top 50. So I'm not going to go all through all 50, but number 50 was Gavin Newsom, governor of California. Kind of noteworthy because he's banning, automobiles that aren't electric in 2035. Number 38 was, let's see, Elon Musk. Number 7, Christian Moyner. He's the Jeep brand CEO. Stellantis' CEO was number 4. But then our number 1 guy of the year is the CEO, executive chair. I'm going to not pronounce his name properly, but I think it's Yusun Chung. So he's the 3rd generation of Hyundai. That's your guy of the year. I guess Hyundai's going to be something big this year. We got to keep our eyes on it. Funny enough, so he's the number one, person of the year, and then they've got the car of the year. Last year's person of the year, CEO of Ford. So to me, it almost seems like a little bit of money's coming in from Ford and Hyundai, maybe on Motor Trend's media. Not only is he there, I found 2 other Hyundai kind of executives in their top 50 to watch. So maybe they've got something to back it up. The reasoning is pretty small, like maybe a paragraph for each person. So I just found that media a little bit interesting, and maybe it makes sense for how they're trending. I don't know if they're going EV, they're going whoever's going to pay the advertising so they can stay online and on board. But I'll get you guys' reaction on those awesome things.
Wooly, who was it last year that even in the middle of the massive recall named the Mustang Mach-E car of the year?
Oh, damn. I think it was like triple A. It was.
It was. Okay. Never mind.
No, but listen, I think what Motor Trend is doing there is they're just picking vehicles that shake up the industry, or people that maybe shake up the industry, not necessarily for good. Just like, who is it? People Magazine might pick Bin Laden for the person of the year. He ain't a fucking hero. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think that the F-150 probably gets picked not because it's a great seller, but because it's just different. It's disrupted the market in a sense. The car is a giant headache for Ford, despite what they tell you, despite all the advertising talking about, oh, we've sold 40% more this year. Well, yeah, because you sold like 12 last year and they were recalled. You know what I mean? Like, it's a train wreck. The Genesis G90, that's actually pretty sweet. I can speak to that because we had it as a press car. I mean, yeah, it's $100,000 Korean car. Like, the market's not big. The only thing that's influential about it is they tried really hard. The Korean brands are trying really hard to prove themselves, a lot like Toyota or Honda would have been doing in the 80s. I think the bigger picture is that, and what drives me crazy is Motor Trend's got no balls. Like, they're not hot rodders anymore. Like, car enthusiasts, even Jeepers, are fucking hot rodders. Like, there's a grit about a car enthusiast. There's a little bit of deviance, or you know what I mean? Like we don't obey. Like, but there's like a certain allure to it. Like, there's a charisma about our disobedience as car culture if you do it right. These guys don't have it anymore. They keep saying, oh, everything's great. Yeah, no, this EV's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's really pretty cool if you get in it. And they're not standing up and going, wait, we've got to start being truthful or we will lose this industry. They're still playing games. It's that Southern California brotherhood where they're just all hanging out at the cool kids table, and none of them are actually like taking a stand. None of them are being the journalists that they should be because they don't want to step out of bounds. They'll play it. They're going to let this whole EV transformation happen, and then they're going to tell you that the Borla speakers are exhaust and that they're actually cool on the Mach-E. Like, what? Where does this stop? When are people going to start standing up and saying, okay, enough's enough. We are leaders. Motor Trend is a leader in the automotive culture, but they're not being one. They're being vanilla as hell. And that's what drives me crazy. I think it's beyond the point of like personal preference now. It's imperative. I think it's imperative that people start standing up to defend car culture. It is breaking my heart that like I've grown up in car culture and they're giving it up inside of 5 years. Like the EPA is going to come through this shit like a tsunami through some Asian little village, dude. And it is going to just wipe it out. And they're not paying attention to it. They're too busy hashtagging and trying to be their own media. And man, it's going to bite us all in the ass, dude. All of us. It's going to affect us. I mean, if the automotive industry tanks, S3's gone. Like, how can we be profitable? You're gone if you get too chained up and you can't do mods. Like, it's just getting stupid. So while we have real problems out there that somebody like Motor Trend actually has the influence to be tackling, they're talking about the F-150 Lightning being the truck of the year. They're so off base, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's pathetic, but it's still what people watch. Your average guy that is lightly into car culture, that maybe had a cool car when he was younger before he sold it and bought an F-150 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, those are the guys that are always coming up to me and be like, hey, do you watch the Motor Trend, whatever? I'm like, no, I don't. I don't. But those Motor Trend reaches a lot of surface, car enthusiasts. And I just think they need to be doing better.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, like, I was okay. I understood definitely that four-wheeler magazine, like, I know magazines in general, and I guess potentially newspapers and things like that. That's obviously going to go. What bothered me is they didn't like even want to pivot. There's no four-wheeler app, nothing like that. And then they're killing the show. So I'm like, what's going on there? Now my only source of information is going to have to be social media. It's going to have to be YouTube. It's going to have to be just, even, or just talking to my buddies, which that's fine. That's probably the best way to go. Anyways, something I thought that was pretty funny. I was picking up some beer tonight and sushi from Publix, because you can get some discounts. You go kind of late night on that on the Publix sushi, especially on a Wednesday. They still have a magazine aisle, so I just walked down it just to take a peek. There was 4 automotive publications, Mopar Muscle, Tread magazine, which is an off-road magazine I haven't heard of, and F100 Buyer's Guide. I didn't know that was a thing, but I guess that's hot, and Car and Driver. So that was the 4 that were sitting there. So I guess, traditional media is basically, we can just call it RIP. It's dead. Anything that's left around, I mean, I guess we have our only choice is, if we're going to hang around and be the old heads and put out stuff, we got to do this. We got to podcast. We got to put out our own media, or we can watch Whistle and Diesel and whatever maybe else be out there.
Well, and to speak to that point, like, you mentioned Whistle and Diesel or any of those guys that are like shock and awe YouTube channels or whatever, like, the bigger picture now, and I know Mike can talk about this stuff, is that, like, the automotive aftermarket has kind of lost control of the influencers, so to speak. Like, they've lost control of the media. Like, back in the magazine days, or at least the traditional days, somebody from an aftermarket company could say, hey, I wanted to hit you guys up. I love the magazine. I've got this message I need to get out, or I've got this product I'm trying to get out. Can you guys help me? I'd really love to reach your audience. And you figure out a way to do that. And some magazines did it better than others. Some were more sold out than others, or whatever. But there was a relationship between the media and the aftermarket. And now that is effed. Like, I know that the aftermarket works with a lot of YouTubers, but YouTubers don't need their money. Like, YouTubers are getting paid off of YouTube. So you can't really control the trends like you used to be able to. When the kids in the import world decide that 25-year-old cars on 25-year-old wheels and bags is cool, you can't change that. And it kills an industry and turns it into a hobby, a little niche-y thing, And that's like, if you start peeling the onion, that's like where this is going now. Like, the industry has lost control of the enthusiasts. And I think that that's going to pan out to be a bigger problem. Mike, anything? What do you think?
I mean, you pretty much nailed it. We were talking about this earlier today a little bit when we were talking about, you did an article and a video earlier today of that new EV Hummer bricking itself in Moab. And that's a perfect example, because back in the day, if that guy were like part of a magazine company or just some sort of traditional media, the car would have a problem, and then he would immediately call and be like, hey, maybe we should, like, let's fix this thing, come get me, we'll try it again. We'll act like this didn't happen, we'll figure it out later. But like, yeah, these guys are YouTubers and they just happen to have that vehicle. So now they're going to use their platform because it's big news. It's shock and awe kind of stuff. It's exemplary. And yeah, they just put the camera on and say, this thing is a giant hunk of shit. And let's talk about it. Let's bash it.
The reality is when it breaks inside, they're going, yes, I'm going to get so many hits on this. You know what I mean? Like it's just a different thing. Back in the day, you'd be like, oh no, I better call my buddy and see what's going on, you know, or whatever. It's just different now, man. But anyway, whatever. Like, back to your point, I know we kind of lost track of it. Why are they killing four-wheeler and not doing anything with it? Yes, you're right. I love off-road stuff. I love car stuff. I love old stuff, new stuff, racing, all of it. And I can tell you that the off-road segment is the biggest booming segment by far. Do you know how many tire advertisers we lost? And even wheel advertisers, they're all trying to hit the off-road market, off-road. You know, 10 years ago, it was all drift. And now it's just off-road is everything. Every contractor is writing off a lift and wheels and tires for their new truck. Like, there is no doubt that it is huge. So, like, there's no doubt that there's profit to be had. I don't know why they would walk away from that. I can understand why they would kill print. If you guys, why would you know? Like, print has gotten completely just battered. It was bad before Corona, obviously. The only magazines you had were either the super corporate ones or a couple independent guys like us that were just fighting the good fight. But then Corona, like everything else, it made paper get scarce fast. It made the prices go up, and there's not that much margin. You know, like, I mean, I'll just fucking, like, when we were printing an issue, it's like 30 grand. You know what I mean? Like, and so when you print the next one, they go, oh, it's going to be 37. And then you print the next one and they go, oh, it's going to be 45. You know, you can't keep up with that. It's especially when everybody's pulling out of print. So I understand why they're not printing. What I don't understand is there's value in the name. You know what I mean? There's value in the people that are there. Why not use those people? It seems suspect, and I hate to run to the woke, you know, whatever, but it seems suspect that you would just walk away from an industry that's kind of flourishing and an industry that people want to hear from. I mean, everybody wants to hear from. The unique thing about the off-road market is it's, you know, age 13 to 103. You know what I mean? Like, you're messing with hot imports. Come on, it's a young man's game. You know what I mean? Like, it's a younger demographic. But literally all ages can see the appeal in a Jeep. You know what I mean? Like, it speaks to everybody, men, women, all walks of life, all ethnicities, all income levels, like all ages. Like, a Jeep speaks to those people, or a Toyota truck, or whatever it is. They're iconic things. So I don't understand why you would kill that. It doesn't make sense to me. And why would you keep, I can understand keeping Hot Rod, because those are old guys. They like their print magazine, but are they really old guys? There's a lot of young guys that are messing with hot rods. But anyway, it's all part of the same era. You know what I mean? Print and hot rods and doo-wop music and diners, like, it all works together. I get that. I get Motor Trend because that's their bread and butter. I just don't understand why you wouldn't do something more with four-wheel drive. Like, so did they cancel the shows?
Yeah, so pretty much any of the off-road shows on the app are dead. And something I thought was, like, incredible. So Dirt Every Day was my favorite show that they had. They just went straight to YouTube, the two guys that are running it, Fred and Dave, and they've got like 500,000 followers already, like, just in a few months.
Wait, so they went independently to YouTube?
Yep. So once they got fired and lost their job, they just went and started filming it themselves in their garage. And not as good a production, but they've already got a huge following.
That's the thing. 10
was a successful show.
Yeah, 10 gave that up. They lost those guys. They lost that viewership. They lost those advertisers and just gave it directly. I don't understand the move. I just don't get it. Unless dare I say, and I'm going out on a limb here, but I know we're all thinking it, that, 10 is owned by Discovery. Discovery's partnered with Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is owned by AT&T, and those guys are rich enough to call some shots and have some agendas and decide which way they're going to steer America. You know, and like
if you're in the EV boat, not that there's anything wrong with EVs, but like if you're in that boat, who's your biggest enemy? It's the big lifted truck off-road, punching salmon in the face and killing Bambi with their vehicles kind of guys. You know,
and we've talked about it before. Like, the enthusiasts, like, we're kind of the minority, and we're getting more and more and more the minority as, you know, new people are lame and they're not into cars and stuff. So, like, you know, the world, the government, and it's not just our government, it's first world governments are pushing this EV thing hard. You got to wonder why. But that's the problem. Most people don't wonder why. They go with it. And it's the enthusiasts that are going, wait, I've got decades of experience with this, and this and this and this doesn't add up, and this part of this production is very dirty, and what's going to happen here? And so the guys at the top levels, we are a thorn in their ass. We are the 6% of the population that they need to shut up. You know what I mean? And so how do they shut you up? They take away your voice. They shadow ban you. They take away your platform. They take away four-wheeler. You know, and pretty soon, if there's not a four-wheeler or an S3 to go, hey, the Hummer EV's lame as shit, guys, pull your head out of your ass, then it becomes not lame anymore. It's just they've succeeded. They've pulled it off, you know, and right now, the enthusiasts are the squeaky wheel, like I said, the thorn in their ass. So that makes sense. I mean, I haven't invested, but if you're just following logic, it kind of makes sense. Why would you kill something that's profitable and that people want and that you already have?
I'm going to play devil's advocate. I do think there's probably some validity to what you guys are saying. But the fact is, I'm going to show you from a media business perspective, because this is what I specialize in. When it comes to these digital media companies, one of the biggest problems is whether you're doing app or videos or just a website, which they're doing all of them, but you basically come to the problem where you've only got so much space for ads. You know, you can't like with S3, when S3 was humming along and the magazine was going great, we had like 50 advertisers in an issue, if not more. And it's really easy to do that. And so you just collect the check from those guys when you print, and it's really easy to get enough money because you don't have to screw everybody over. Whenever you're doing it digitally like this, you ideally want to have like 5, at the most 8 to 10 advertisers who are involved, and you want them to pay the maximum amount. But you also know that they're only going to pay so much. Like, they are actually limited as to what they can do. So they're going to go in and they're going to pull in the biggest tire manufacturer, the biggest wheel manufacturer. They're going to get the biggest car manufacturers involved, and they're going to tap those guys out. But those guys do have a limit. They do have a budget as to what they can actually spend every year. And sadly, I have a feeling the sad truth is that a couple of suits and a couple of accountants got together and basically said, this is fat that needs to be trimmed. This will basically just be extra that we will be paying to produce that is not producing additional income off of what we can already make. There's probably more to that than we think.
What about the whole Source Interlink Prime Media plan back when print was still around? The way that they just, you know, ran the show was that they would be like, okay, Toyo Tires, you spend your budget with us. We'll make sure that your, you know, our 888s get an import tuner. We'll make sure that your, you know, open countries get into JP magazine. We'll make sure that whatever, the retro stuff, I don't know what it is, gets into Hot Rod. You know what I mean? They dispersed it into all the magazines, so they had an answer for everybody. It seems like if you keep four-wheeler around, you can go, okay, Toyo, Falcon, whoever it is, we'll put your performance tires and motor trim. We'll put your, you know, mud terrains and all terrains in the off-road adventure magazines or whatever. Like, it just doesn't. I don't get it. I wish I did. I don't really understand why they would make that move, unless we're in the middle of something bigger right now, and Hot Rod's next, and Motor Trend is going to morph into motor, you know, something else. Hot Rod will be a a page within the Motor Trend. Like, I don't know, unless we're just in the middle of it. So it doesn't make sense right now.
To Mike's point, it would kind of make sense as far as where I've seen not just the automotive industry, but definitely the off-road industry in the last 3 or 5 years. We've seen 50 small, independent, medium-sized businesses become basically 3 companies. We got Truck Hero, we got Wheel Pro, and Wheel Pro's bought all the biggest names. And I mean, they just bought Four Wheel Parts, who had all the different brands. If they feel like the executives at Wheel Pro that they don't want to sponsor a magazine, there's 75% of the brands right there. So
dude, you're onto something, because Wheel Pros, they bought Hoonigan. Like, they bought so many companies that they now are media. With Hoonigan, they can steer that ship whatever way they want to go. You got companies like Holley that are doing their own. A lot of these bigger companies have decided to be their own media. Even the smaller companies have media departments now, where they used to just have a marketing manager. Now they're all worried about creating content. That's like a big part of every company. So maybe because off-road is a younger, hipper demographic, so to speak, a more active demographic, maybe it just, even though it had a lot of views, like, I know between you guys, all my off-road buddies, like, you guys get your stuff on YouTube. You get your stuff online. That's where you are. That's where off-road culture lives. You're
on
always
the
on
Jeepin Bubba YouTube channel. That's
yeah, it's a good time to plug Jeepin Bubba. But that's what I mean, like, Jeepin Bubba. You go and you ride trails and you talk about them and you show them, and people eat that shit up. You talk about, what wheel size to pick for your Jeep purchase or whatever, and how to build around wheel size. And people that just bought a Jeep, they eat that up because that is pertinent information. So maybe like in the off-road world, it's already gotten too scattered and subcultured, and it's all over the internet. And the traditional stuff, which is now not even traditional, it's all online and apps and stuff. But you know what I mean? The traditional old names just cannot. It's just me. Everybody's media now. I mean, look, your media. You run a parts store and you install Jeep parts. You know what I mean? Like, everybody with a phone is media in some sense. So maybe it's harder for them to compete.
Yeah, it would make sense. I'll tell you
what.
what.
I don't know. Why wouldn't you just keep?
The brand's been around for 61 years. It seems like they could survive this, but if there's not someone at the helm of it that cares, it would make sense. But there's only one app currently that's sending like news to my smartwatch, and that's the S3 app. So that's where I'm going to get my media. Yeah, I'll read about, how EVs are killing us, and I'll hear Mike's rants on TikTok, and it'll be great. So we'll be okay.
Are we kind of wrapping it up? What are you thinking?
I mean, I'm halfway done with my last beer, so you've got to get right here. So you got a
I had a point, and I was going to use it at the conclusion.
Use it. Wrap it up.
Use it now. If it's not the conclusion, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm all out of stuff. I'm all out of data.
Me and Mike have a friend, Jonathan Wright, that does a YouTube channel. He actually has a car one now, I think, but he made his fortune, so to speak, doing firearm reviews and stuff like that, and accessory reviews on YouTube. Well, obviously, YouTube is coming down hard on those guys. It's been hard, but they doubled down, and I'm not going to pretend I know all the ins and outs, but he was writing something on social media that was like, guys, like, this is real. Like, they are shutting it down and silencing it and basically trying to silence that whole demographic. It's a matter of time, the way the world is currently going, before car culture is next. When they eat up the gun culture, they're going to turn around and go, those guys. And it's never going to stop. After us, it's going to be the off-roaders for beating up the trails. And after it's the off-roaders, it's going to be the mountain bikers for wearing little, trails into the, it's never going to stop until we're all at home eating Cheetos, watching VR or something. Yeah.
Digitally living how we were physically living 10 years ago.
And people need to get their head out of their ass and stop being manipulated and divided by politics. It's not left or right. It's fucking Americans. And if you like freedom, you should, whether you're left or right. Like, you need to defend it. You need to defend your freedom to do shit, right? Like, that's the beauty of America. Like, you don't have to like the fact that I like loud cars. You just got to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way it is. But that's the next chapter of this. The next chapter is that YouTube silences car culture. Everybody's now put all their stock into YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And those guys are going to get together and go, yeah, just flip the switch, turn them off. And then what? And then who do you reach? You know what I mean? Like, how does car culture reach people? I think that's kind of imminent if you're paying attention to what's going on. I mean,
that was actually my big question. Like, how do we get, like, how does that information about automobiles reach the consumer if they kill print, if they kill TV, and it's social, then social is easily controlled? Like, you know,
well,
I'm almost seeing that at SEMA. Like, I'm almost a little concerned, like we see kind of a little bit where SEMA's going and where the show's going. It's like, I almost feel like you said, like, the enthusiast is the minority, and it's like, that all this stuff is lining up. Like, you know, if you're actually, like, hardcore into it, kind of, you know, it just seems like it follows the corporate suit, it follows the money, and then we're all just left and whatever's, you know, we think we have all these options on YouTube, but you're right. Like, if they decide, let's kill automotive, yeah, where do we post?
Oh, well, and this is how they'll do it. Yeah, that was the use of an unauthorized, non-EPA approved exhaust. Therefore, we don't, you know, or whatever, and they'll just shut everything down. You know, that is the tragedy of what's happened here. Is you've taken traditional media, which was by the culture for the culture, and it kept the money circling. And we've said this before, but maybe there's a different audience because you're on here, so we'll say it again. Like, it kept the power of the culture in the industry, right? Like, if company A had a good year, they advertised in the magazines had a good year, they went out and got people psyched to buy stuff. Those people bought stuff from company A and B and C and D, and it was all just, it wasn't so counted. You know, you weren't watching the statistics of your ad. You just had faith. You were just putting money into the culture. The culture was getting stronger. People were getting hooked on this shit. Before you know it, Hollywood's making movies like Fast and Furious 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, and it was just, it was strong. It was very strong. It was so strong. It was like mainstream. And then, you know, social media comes around, and these bastards basically said, hey, we'll just give you, you know, views for free. And it did. It worked. 10 to 12 years ago, it worked like a charm for a lot of companies. We were one of them. And then they said, now you're going to fucking pay. It was, you know what I mean? Once they had you, they're like, now you're going to pay. Oh, now you're going to pay more to get the same likes you got when you paid less last time. Oh, well, now a bigger company like you than you, I don't know, Toyota's advertising. So you got to compete with them for views. Now you got to pay more. And so it's no longer free. You know, it's as expensive as print ever was when you break it down by the month or anything like that. The difference is they don't care about car culture. They're not coming Jeeping with you. They're not going to freaking Slammed Enough or Grid Life or Import Alliance. They're not supporting the culture. They don't give a fuck if your event gets shut down because of Corona. They don't give you a mate. They don't go, hey, man, we got your back, dude. We know that, you know, this didn't go well. We'll get you an ad in the next issue. It's on the house. No, it's a vending machine. You pay again. They don't cover your event. You got to pay if you want anybody to see. Like, the whole thing, they don't care about the culture. They're just taking the money from this culture and from every other culture to make themselves rich enough to where they can influence the future of America and which direction we head and what kind of cars we're going to be driving. And guess what? They're not fucking fans of Jeeps and Hondas with swap motors and old Porsches and stuff like that. Like, no, they want us all driving pods that drive themselves while we're here, while we're buying, while we're, you know, viewing and looking. It's fucking disaster that we created. We created it by being selfish, by thinking that we can cheat the system, you know what I mean? And we can do it cheaper ourselves. And it's the thing, a culture is not about yourself. It's a tribe, and the whole tribe has to be strong for the culture to be strong.
I think we all need to learn how to work on carburetors, because I think that's the only way they can keep us from not having cars, right? We can cook our own moonshine and run E85, and we can have carburetors. We don't need computers. So
Well, that's a whole other thing. They're taking good citizens that have a car hobby and they're turning them into criminals slowly but surely, dude. And these guys are not going to stop. Some will, but you're going to take good people and turn them into, and that's what happens when you lose your freedom, right? Like good people turn into fighters and criminals and outlaws. And yeah, that's the way we're fucking headed if we do not get smart and start, fighting this stuff where we can. Not violently. I'm not saying fight, but like, you got to rise up. And SEMA's the same thing. SEMA's, I don't know what SEMA's doing, but you can tell a change in the show. You guys there?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I just got a low battery and both of y'all were not moving. And I was like, but yeah, I don't know. Is SEMA's effort too little too late? I got the feeling it is. I got the feeling that they're all patting each other on the back and nominating each other and their buddies for, certain chairman spots and all that. Meanwhile, it's like the Titanic, man. The ship is sinking. It's got holes in it. It's sinking, and they're over there, I don't know, living the good life, trying to pretend it ain't happening, trying to keep their seat at the cool kid table and keep their press cars and keep their, it's stupid, but what can you do? All we can do is talk about it like we are.
All we can do?
Yeah.
What else you got for us? Anything, or is that it?
That's it. I'm all out of good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Wooly,
who's talking?
Wooly, you nailed it. Take us out.
It's been a pleasure. Again, that's Jeepin Bubba or Beepin Jubba. His name's Brad Coron. The company, the shop that he has is Black Bear Off-Road. It's blackbearoff-road.com if you want to go check him out. He's one of my good buddies. Saved my ass more than a handful of times when it comes to Jeeps and whatnot. And hey, if you guys like have a Jeep and you don't have a crew, like hit us up. Black Bear Trail Team. That's on Instagram and Facebook. We go riding, we go have a good time, and it doesn't matter how stock or built your rig is, and it doesn't matter how experienced you are. It's a no man left behind thing, and the whole off-road community is super cool, super supportive, and like 90% of us came from cars and other rad shit, so it's cool stuff, man. Thanks for making us come on here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, so I can get that off my chest. I can sleep easy tonight.
Yeah, well, now you got me thinking. I'm about to get on Google and start researching.
That's right. R.I.P. four-wheeler and all that stuff.
I know, man. All right, dude. Well, and as always, you guys can check us out. We have a freaking app. It's free. There's no in-app purchases or any of that annoying crap when you get other free apps. It's called S3 Magazine. It's on Apple and Android, and just go get it. Just go get it, please. It's not going to hurt you. All right. So with that, you want to say you tell them to eat the prunes.
I hope there's an adventure in your future. Eat your prunes. We'll be seeing you.